Hello guys. So in this session we are going to learn keywords and variables in Python. Okay. So let's start. So first of all, what is keywords in Python? So let's understand. So keywords are reserved words in Python that have predefined meaning and cannot be used for anything other than their intended purpose, such as naming variables or functions, and they are part of the language syntax and serve specific roles like defining functions, control flow, or handling exceptions. Okay, that's the keyword. So let's understand the example of keywords. So first of all, control flow. So in control flow, we can use if, else, else if, for, and while. Okay, if, else, else if, for, and while. Then function definition, def or return. Okay, def and return. Then in Boolean values, true or false. Then exception handling, try, except, finally, and raise. So that's the example of keywords. Okay. So after that here, we can see all the list of available keywords using below simple Python program. Okay. So let's see the all the listed of available keywords using below simple Python program. So as you can see here, this is the simple Python program. You can see import keyword and you can see print keyword list. Okay, so let's run this program. Okay. After that, as you can see, here is the output. As you can see here also, I mentioned the result, but you can see here, this is our simple Python program and this is the output of this. So you can see the result, false, none, true, and, as, assert, async, await, break, and so on. You can see. Right? Break, class, continue, def, del, else if, else, except, finally, for, from, global, if, import, in, is, lambda, non-local, not, or, pass, raise, return, try, while, with, and it, as you can see. Okay. So that's the list of available keywords using this program. Okay. So that's this keywords, that simple keywords. Okay. Now that's the keywords. Okay. So we understand the keywords and example, right? After that, now let's understand the variables. So what is variables? Okay. So here, symbolic names that reference values stored in memory. In Python, variables do not need explicit declaration and created when you assign a value to them. And variable names can contain letters, numbers, and underscores. But they cannot start with a number and cannot use keyword as names. Okay, that's important. You can see, but they cannot start with a number and cannot use keyword as name. Okay, so that's the variables. So as you can see here, I mentioned some rules of variables. So the first rule is must start with a letter or underscore. Okay. Then second is cannot contain letters, numbers, and underscores. Okay. Then case sensitive. So my var and my var are different variables. You can see first my var is the V capital, you can see, and the second is small. So these two are different. That means it says case sensitive, right? You can see here it's that two are different, right? My var and my var. Then cannot use Python keyword as variable name. Okay. So that's the some rules of variables. Okay. Then after that, as you can see here, I mentioned example. Okay. So let's understand. So first of all, you're creating variable name, right? Here I mentioned name, age 30, is active, true, height 5.6. Okay. That's the float variable. As you can see, it's a string variable, it's an integer, and it's a boolean. Because it's a string variable, it's an integer, it's a boolean true, and it's a float variable. So that's a simple example. Okay, right? That define variable, how to define variable, right? So we can define these four variables: string, integer, boolean, and float. Okay. The next is variable scope. So let's understand. So the scope of variable refers to the region of the program where that variable is accessible. Then variables can have different scopes depending on where they are declared. Python has 4 types of variable scopes. Okay, so let's understand what are the 4 variable scopes of Python. So here I mentioned LEGB rule. Python follows the LEGB rule to resolve variable names. PyLEGB, L for local, E for enclosing, G for global, and B for built-in. Built-in. Okay, so that's by the 4 variables. LEGB rule. Okay, so let's understand. So first of all, Python follows this LEGB rules to resolve variable names. So the first is local. So here the interpreter first checks for the variable in the current local scope. Then enclosing, if not found, it checks the enclosing non-local scope. Then global. So then it checks the global scope and built-in. Finally, it checks the built-in scope. Okay. So here I mentioned the example of LEGB rule, that 4 rule. You can see, first of all, here I declare x is equals to global, def, outer. So in this outer, I'm going to x is equals to enclosing. And after that here, def inner, x is equals to local. So first of all, here I'm going to, in this inner function, I'm going to print this x is equals to local. Then after that, here, in this inner, I'm going to print this enclosing here. As you can see the function. And after that here, in this function, I'm going to print this global. Here I've mentioned def. Okay. Right. So let's print. So let's save the file and run. As you can see, first of all, local. Why? Because as you can see here, we are going to print this first local in this def inner. Right. After that, in this enclose, you can see enclose. Right. Here. Then after that, print here in outer. So that's why here in outer global. Okay. So that's the example of LEGB rule. Right. That means local enclosing global built-in. Okay. Now let's check one by one. So the first is local scope. Okay. Local scope. So variable defined inside a function is called a local scope. Local variable, sorry. Understand this? It's important. Which a variable defined inside a function is called a local variable and it is accessible only within that function and not outside of it. Okay, so in this example, you can see first of all here we have declared this function def my function, and in this function here I have declared x is equals to 10 and I'm going to print this by local variable. Okay, print my function. Okay, so it will print 10, right? Because it's a local variable. Okay, so let's check. Save this file and run. As you can see, 10. Okay. Why it's printing 10? Because it's a local variable. It's print inside this function. You can see a variable defined inside a function is called local variable. It's printing because it's a inside in this function. Okay. If I enter, if I enter this print in the here means this print is inside this function, so that's why it will print 10. So I'm going to remove and I'm going to here print, enter here print, and let's save this file. So it give us error. You can see him throw name x is not defined. Why? Because it's out of function now. right? So that's why it's give us error. So the local scope variable is a variable defined inside a function. It's called a local variable. Okay. The next variable is enclosing. That means non-local scope. Okay. It's obviously it's opposite to this local scope. Why? Because it's a non-local scope. So that's why it's called non-local scope. Non-local scope because it's opposite to local scope. That's enclosing scope. So variable is an enclosing scope or variable from the outer function that can be accessed by inner functions. So the non-local keyword is used to modify them inside nested function. Okay. So first of all, here we have defined this function, outer function, and x is equals to 10. After that, in this def inner function, right? Non-local x is equals to 20, then print inner x. Okay. And after that, here inner function and print outer x. After that, outer function. Okay. So let's check the output. As you can see, first of all, here in inner 20 and outer also 20. Right. Why? As you can see, variable in an enclosing scope are variable from the outer function that be accessed by inner function. Okay. Outer function can access to inner function. You can see is an enclosing scope that are variable from the outer function that can be accessed by inner function, and the non-local keyword is used to modify them inside nested function. So that's why it will print 2020, inner also 20 and outer also 20 because it's access to inner function. Okay, that's the enclosing scope. Then after that, the next is global scope. Sorry. Okay. The next is global scope. So global variable is defined at the top level of script or module and is accessible from any part of the program. To modify a global variable inside a function, the global keyword is used. Okay. Then, as you can see, the example x is equals to 5, it's a global variable. And def my function global x is equals to 10, my function print. And output will be 10. Okay. Why? Because a global variable is defined at the top level of script or module and is accessible from any part of the program. And to modify a global variable inside a function, the global keyword is used. So that's why a global keyword is used, right? Let's run this program. As you can see here, modify the global variable. You can see here you have mentioned x. Let's save this file and run. And you can see it will print 10, right? Okay. So that's the global scope. Now the next and last is built-in scope. So the built-in scope contains names that are preloaded in Python, such as print and len, etc. So these variables are accessible globally unless shadowed by local or global variables. Okay. Now here in this program, what will be the output? So output will be 3. Why? Because in this array we have 3 elements. We have 3 numbers. Okay. Len means length. Okay. It will print 3. So let's check. As you can see, it will print 3. If I modify in this program, if I enter 0, comma, and now let's save the program and run, it will print 4. See, 4. That means it's a, you can see it's such a print and so on, it's count the length. Okay. Written scope contains names that are preloaded in program Python, such as print and len. Okay. So that's the 4 variables in this Which variables? LEGB rule. That means local, enclosing, global, and built-in. Okay. So that's the variables in Python. So in this session, we have learned keywords and variables in Python. So thank you for watching and I hope you understand.